I was watching a movie from Anonymous, a director from Venezuela called William García. And I was, no, it's not that William, it's not that William. And I had to double check it out in that, but no, man, it's really an honor to have you here. We got some really great questions, but I'll let you with Jhon.
No, absolutely. Yeah, hay otro William García.
Yeah. Sí, hay otro William y en Venezuela y está haciendo películas de terror.
Sí, y cuando fui yo a Colombia hace muchos años, la emigra, cuando entré yo al país, me dijeron, señor García, por favor, ven aquí un momentico. Y entonces yo caminé por un cuarto, porque también hay un William García que no es una persona muy buena, y me tuvieron que chequear y todo.
Wow.
¿No? Eso fue increíble. Anyways, let me flip back to my native language of English. But that was it.
You are the William García bueno.
Yes. el otro estaba like, woo. It's like, you know.
Por ahí. Yeah. Bueno, Jhon, qué buen dato, Jhon, te dejo.
No, Andrés, ¿quieres empezar tú? Hazle.
Okay, yes. In fact, I was something, when I was watching your IMDb, I was something that I really have to ask you, because you made me remember, we are saying that we are all, we are añejos, but yes, man, I was watching that you made the cinematography for making the video. Wow. How was that, those years, man? Because I'm a really, really big fan of all days from MTV, from VH1, from the whole culture of music videos, and you are like an authority. Tell us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. My career as a producer is a bit unique because I started as first as a journalist for, the local Miami television station. I used to shoot, news, documentary, sports. I was also involved in a Soviet American journalist exchange program during the 90s. So I started behind the cameras. And then as a natural transition, I went to work for MTV. I mean, for me, I was that in 1980s, I was watching MTV, the Moon Man. I was the first generation MTV. I loved MTV music videos. I always wanted to, I want to work for MTV. I want to work for MTV. And then later on in life, I worked for MTV. I worked for MTV Real World. I also did MTV Making the Video. Also the MTV Awards that were down in South Florida. So I worked a lot of the, Área 305, Area 305.
And Room Raiders. Oh my God. Even Room Raiders. Man. It was like and not only for me, a lot of critics say that these 2000s are like the last golden age on MTV. Man, I had to ask you two things, Jhon. Dale. What is your favorite making the video? And what remembers more about this MTV and what artists made us teen? I was like in my 20s or my 10s.
I gotta tell you, the one that was fantastic that I still remember is with Ricky Martin, Nobody Wants to Be Lonely, and Cristina Aguilera. And Ricky, he is such a nice guy, really sweet person. That was to me, I think, one of the best ones for me. And we were shooting it at the Biltmore. So it was a really great experience. And I'm going to give you a story. This is a true story. And it's really creepy. So I'm shooting, for MTV, and we're also shooting some stuff for Sony at the time. And we were going to do an interview with Ricky Martin in the Al Capone suite. Now, the Biltmore is a very famous old hotel in Coral Gables. And I lit this up. I have a crew, and we went up to the Al Capone suite, setting up all the lights, the whole thing. It's a pretty big crew. And then, I go and I said, okay, we're ready for Ricky. We're going to go ahead. Let's go have dinner. Everyone, please shut down all the lights, everything. Everyone, shut down. And everyone left because we're going to go eat. And then after we had our meal, we would wait for Ricky to do the interview. So I was the last one. This is a true story. This still freaks me out. I was the last one in that room. All the lights are turned off. I switch everything off to make sure because of safety. And then I walked to the elevator and I was like, oh, shoot, I forgot my phone and stuff. And when I came back, all the windows and all the lights were on. That freaked me out. I was like, who did this? And I'm walking around. If someone was playing a joke and I could not find anybody, true story. It's the creepiest thing that has ever happened to me.
Tell me that you had something to do with that album cover from Lenny Kravitz that I'm seeing back there, or it's just...
Yes, I worked with Lenny Kravitz during the Dig In album, which was for the entire album. And then I was hired, for Dig In and stuff. And I was hired for the press material. So I was in the studio with Lenny for that. And actually that's his Dig In right there. And it's like signed by Lenny. So you can't see it because of the reflection, but I have in my walls like all the credentials and all the different things that I did when I was working in music. But that being said, Lenny, he's a rock star. He was amazing to work with. Really, really nice guy. A friend of mine, Charlie Smith, also worked with him in his younger days when he was known as Romeo Blue. So I was hired to do all the interviews, press, behind the scenes. And that was through the time, I think it was through Columbia. Yeah. Columbia Records. Yeah.
Thank you. I needed to do this question. Now I let you with El Patron, with Jhon.
With Jhon. No worries. No problem. Yeah. And I can even tell you about my relation with my what was it, 2 days with Michael Jackson. It's like another thing.
Please.
No, yeah. We worked, well, again, what happened was, as a filmmaker, I had a working relationship with video commissioners. That's how you get work at that time. Mind you, I'm not in the music industry anymore, but once you have a relationship with video commissioners, they're the ones that commission, the electronic press kits, the promotional, the music videos, everything. And it was this big secret, the video commissioner I was working with at the time called me up and he's like, I need you to put together this crew. It has to be only people that you trust. And I'm like, okay, who's the artist? And mind you, I've worked with Paul McCartney. I've worked with Juanes, Shakira, it's not a big thing. And he's like, I can't tell you. And I'm like, what? You can't tell me? Okay. I'm like, fine. It's like, you can't tell me. And all of a sudden I'm like, I don't know who we're shooting. And so I put the crew together, lights, cameras, all that kind of stuff. And then the night before, I'm calling and saying, okay, we're going to go to Criteria Records. It's now, I don't know the name of it now. They originally went to the Hit Factory, and it's like a very famous recording studio in Miami. It's really in Miami Beach. And it goes down to like Layla, the Bee Gees recorded there. Or mixed there. There was a lot of work that was coming out of that recording studio in Miami. So it was very famous for having this positive energy for musicians. So that morning I come in with trucks and, 20, 30 people. And the commissioner comes to me in the close and he says, we have to collect all the phones, everything, no pages, whatever. And I'm like, wait, what is this? And there's this big giant, like, RV outside and all that. And he goes, you're working with Michael Jackson today. And I was like, wow, man, Michael Jackson. And his two kids were there. There was the two little kids were there running around, in the sound booth. And he was a very nice man. It was wonderful working with him. So that was, you're bringing me back. That's like my shooting time and producing and stuff.
And believe me, that was unscripted, unexpected, man. Thank you. And thank you also for naming the Colombians. Shakira and Juan. In fact, Shakira and Juanes was even like, man, it's amazing the career that he got now. And back on those days, oh, man. No, you maybe think.
No, absolutely.
In my high school.
I shot a commercial. It was a radio commercial spot with Juanes that was done in Miami. And then at the time, VH1, I think it was VH1, if my memory, remember that this is a while back, it was being Shakira, if I remember. And also, there was a Pepsi commercial when I was a general manager at a production company in South Florida. We provided production services to a Pepsi that, she was in. And this is during the 90s, 2000s.
when en that commercial kids en Inevitable, ¿no?
Yeah.
Si él está cansado, ya. Jhon, es que él tuvo que ver con el comercial de Inevitable de Shakira, pero estamos hablando imagínate.
Tiempo, no.
Tú eras bebé. Yes. Jhon, dale.
Thank you, William. No solo felicitarte por este gran trabajo, sino yo recuerdo, yo sí me tomé la tarea en visualizar Los Soldados en el 2003. ¿Cómo es posible usted poder dirigir a Dan Chen y a Corman? O sea, es increíble la historia de Vietnam en el 68. Es una transición muy increíble sobre la guerra, la evolución de cómo está. Y yo quiero preguntarte sobre qué recuerdos le trae la estética de poder realizar esta cinta, que es como, no sé si puede decir apta para lo que se visualiza, porque está como muy fiel a la historia.
Yes, in general aspects, because he watched it back in those years. For me, that's great. The Soldier, and he want to ask you, yes, how was the creating the story, the atmosphere, directing all these great actors? I don't know. It's like tell us something about this production in general.
The Soldier. Oh,
yes,
my
back
God.
on those years, man.
Es que imagínate, you're going atrás ahí, like yo estaba diciendo, El Soldado. Yo estoy like, pensando, ¿qué película está hablando este hombre del Soldado? Y entonces ahí yo me tiré porque estaba pensando, Soldado, ¿sabes? Eso fue, mira, that. And for me, be aware, I have to go back and forth because my mind works faster in English. In Spanish, it goes really slow. The Soldier came about because Ben Affleck and had a project called, remember Project Greenlight? That was on HBO, okay? And Ben Affleck, and what was the name of his partner? I can't think of his name right now.
Matt Damon
and Ben Affleck put together Project Greenlight, and The Soldier was an entry into that first Project Greenlight that came out. Now, I didn't make it all the way to the top. I made it into, I think it was like the 250, and then I didn't go any forward. But that's what the Soldier, where it came from, the whole purpose was to apply for Project Greenlight at the time. But I guess it wasn't good enough. I didn't make it all the way to the top. The one that won ended up working with Shia LaBeouf in the Shaker Heights. I forget the name of the film, but it's that was the one that actually won. But that movie, its only purpose in that short was to enter into Project Greenlight.
Hombre, es que no solo el poder crear esta historia, sino también es recordar, bueno, yo lo veía algunas veces los fines de semana, que es Get Out. Ese Get Out es lo más divertido que yo pude ver en mi vida, respecto no solo por las mujeres hermosas, claro. Buen dato, pero hombre, la historia es como mucho más en saber cómo las aventuras de las personas en un mundo distinto, en un ambiente. Entonces, ¿cómo categorizas o cómo percibes como el tema de cómo se visualiza el cine a través de la realidad? Porque nos sentimos todos los días en una película, pero a veces en esta historia, en esta serie, trata como de algo distinto, salir de la zona de confort.
Yeah, el programa de Get Out, it was a co-production between HD Republic and HDNet, which at the time was owned by Mark Cuban, okay? And it's a form of a reality show. So when we filmed Get Out, it was more of like, it's an adventure. It was very much reality with back interviews. So we would just go with the models. And yes, Get Out, the television series, is more of us following the girls. So it's all story. We had multiple cameras, and then we would follow them through an adventure. And then we would just have a back interview afterwards about talking about their actual adventures. But it's pure travel reality of how that was set. And actually, that television show lasted for a really long time. We produced over 200 episodes, and it's still being seen. I think it's still being aired in South Korea, and I think India is still showing it. And that's more of the reality format, which is, story-based and adventure-based. And Get Out, again, I mean, I just got to tell you, it was like working with the 10 models and all that was very exciting, but it was like being married to 10 women, all the headaches, that you could imagine. There was a lot of drama during the filming of Get Out, but it was a wonderful time. There were such lovely people to work with, and we really had a great time traveling. We really traveled around all over South and Central America, the Caribbean, Europe. We really did a lot of traveling on that show. And how it worked is, as a reality show, we would basically leave the creative to the actual shooters, producers. So we would decide on the angles, the story, what to focus on, whether it was splunking or if we were skydiving or, hiking up a mountain or riding horseback. And that was the essence of it. And it was more about female empowerment and the exploration of just fun events, with a little bit of drama every once in a while, because that's what reality is all about.
Es que, vea, cómo es la diferencia, como ya hablamos de sus inicios, ya hablamos de lo importante que son las series de televisión, pero también destacar su importancia como productor. Men, hay 3 historias que la verdad yo te admiro totalmente y digo, no, me le quito el sombrero para Followaway, The Chive y Obsession, man. O sea, para mí las 3 están muy bien elaboradas, pero para mí Followaway es como decir, yo también quisiera ser parte de esto, porque es una historia totalmente verídica y que de verdad no le puede pasar a alguien, pero no es que uno genere polémica, sino preguntarte sobre este tipo de historias, a qué tipo de pronto realidades se puede más destacar usted para patrocinar más historias, para poder apoyar el nuevo género de todo este drama, acción y todo.
Yeah, I mean, las películas, the movies that I want to produce are Latino films, but Latinos for America. The Latinos like me that are first, second, third generation Latin films with a Latin flavor in both English and Spanish. That's what my vision is to try to push those kinds of stories to tell our stories to the general public. That's where my focus is. But it's very difficult to do that in Hollywood, of taking these kind of stories and these movies that us Latinos want to create and have Hollywood, move forward with them. And a perfect example, I mean, again, look at Batgirl of what happened, where Warner Brothers shelved an $80 million investment. They'll write it off somehow. But that to me was surprising. But we're kind of like, oh, wow, it was una Latina that was going to be in, a lead role of, a comic book hero. But it just becomes that inflection of Hollywood, that it's just kind of like we're battling, trying to tell our stories. But for me, that's the narrative that I'm trying to create out there, is those unique Latino movies and stuff. And I've done films in Spanish, like King Paga la Cuenta, Amor y Frijoles. Esas 2 películas estaban en, ¿cómo se dice? En Honduras. And we filmed those in Honduras. And it did very well for that market, And I actually have a movie that I want to shoot in Colombia. I'm working on it. So I'd like to go there and shoot, but as a producer and as an independent producer, many times I have to focus on the business aspect of it. And sometimes these movies are very difficult to finance. So it becomes trying to find equity investors that want us to tell these type of stories. And that's where it becomes a challenge.
And you can tell us more about the project in Colombia, a little, or nothing more?
No, I can tell you. Well, yeah, I can tell you a project of Colombia. There was when I was in Colombia, and we were shooting a documentary down there. And during at the hotel that I was staying in Barranquilla, Lisa Ling was shooting a documentary on Western men and European men that would go to Colombia to find wives through these socials. And that gave me the idea of a script, a romantic comedy script called Online with Love, which is about a guy from Miami who's a wedding photographer who goes to Colombia to search for a wife. And that's a romantic comedy that I'm trying to produce in Colombia. And I'm talking to some people to see if it'll be possible. But again, just like all the independent filmmakers, it's the financing. It becomes very difficult. But Colombia right now is doing very, very well because of the tax incentive. You have a very good tax incentive in the country, and that's bringing in a lot of filmmakers from around the world to shoot in Colombia. Yeah, absolutely.
And I cross my fingers because I was telling something to Jhon. We want you to make that movie because in Colombia, the two times that they tried to do something like that, oh man, I don't like La Boda del Gringo, sorry, Ana Lucía Domínguez is beautiful, but no, I don't like that movie. And the other one is Mi Gente Linda, Mi Gente Bella, no. But we need your vision. The third time is the road, man. And yes, great that you mentioned Barranquilla. One of the first interviews that we made in this channel is the amazing Jad Guzmán, from the Power Rangers, Barranquillero. Él te hablaría así como, tú sabes, allá esto como que eche no joda, o tú me estás hablando barro, ¿no? Pero Jhon, ¿cómo es que dice? ¿Cómo es que habla? Tú hablas mejor, dime.
Eche. ¿Qué significa eche?
Eche es como que, oye, echen.
Oye, ok. Nosotros decimos oye.
Oye, sí.
Sombrerito volteado.
Mire, Barranquilla, sombrito volteado.
Imagínate que algunas veces la cosa es que yo hablo español, pero el idioma mío... Mira, déjame hablar de esto. Esto es algo muy interesante de la gente latina en los Estados Unidos. Mi abuelo y mi abuelita, la razón que yo sé el español era porque mi abuelo y mi abuelita, ¿me entiendes? Porque mi mamá, inglés, mi papá, inglés. Hasta mis hijos saben menos del español, porque los otros, imagínate, mi papá y mi mamá hablaban a los otros en inglés. El único tiempo que yo tenía para usar el español era cuando estaba yo con mi abuelo, y como murieron hace muchos años, no lo practico y no lo oigo. Y también el idioma es diferente. Por ejemplo, mi esposa, ella es dominicana, ella nació en Washington Heights, Nueva York, toda su vida. Y entonces ella dice, tú sabes que ustedes cubanos tienen esa larga, de los cubanos, el sonido. Siempre me está diciendo. Ella me habla en inglés. Ella dice, no, por favor, no me habla en español porque ese cubano acento tuyo, y los disparates que digo yo, porque imagínate, yo es de Hialeah. Esa es la cosa. For me, it's always been English, as the first language.
Your wife that we got in the channel, Danilo Reynoso, he's from Dominican Republic. And they speak sabroso, the República Dominicana, el acento, like, the house of merengue, man, they told amazing.
Y ella siempre me dice, no te olvides que nosotros fuimos, que traemos a bachata. Eso sí, lo oigo yo todos los días, bachata. Imagínate.
But working with all these artists, what is your favorite genre?
What's my favorite genre? When I was growing up, and I grew up, Miami Springs, senior high, that was my high school. It was Journey. It was Blondie. I grew up with American music. That was my love. That was, I went to a Devo concert, with my brother. My older brother took me there. I mean, it was the Clash, it was that 80s sound, and that's really what I grew up with. But I ended up embracing the Latin music. And for me, Celia Cruz, it's like Albita and other musicians, really after I was much older, where I embraced more of my Latin heritage. But, imagínate, es que en ese tiempo, los 80, 1980, como en el colegio nos hablaba en español, todo era en inglés. You're trying to assimilate to this world, And it was, even though there was a lot of culture, you know, el lechón, you know, el 24, las navidades, you know, los frijoles negros, el con gris, you know, y mi abuela con la charlota, you know, que eso algo especial para la familia mía, the dessert, you know, charlota. It was, you know, just the genre of the music was always American music. It really was, because that's what we grew up with. And in the height of, you know, of dancing, you know, there was a teen dance club during the late 70s, 80s that was called the Forest, which was in Hialeah. That's where we used to go every Friday and Saturday to, you know, dance with girls and stuff. It was a whole different time. That doesn't exist anymore. I don't think it does, not here in the US, but, you know, and roller skating. So my genre has always been that 80s, that new British invasion sound, which came in during the 80s, you know, like Gary Newman and a lot of the groups that came out of certain parts of the country. And then my brother introduced me to Sparks. I always thought that they were British, but I learned later that they're actually from California, which was another type of music that was fantastic.
También es importante dos preguntas que son como para cerrar este gran broche de oro, pero yo quiero saber sobre Trenla, si no estoy mal, si se pronuncia así, o es Sanla, es que yo lo confundo, pero es una historia sobre lo del sueño americano que tú produces. Es algo que la verdad me dejó impresionado por la realidad que se vive en este contexto. Entonces yo quisiera preguntar el poder producir estas historias, qué es la realidad que muchos conocerán en esta historia, que digan, wow, esto es increíble para aplicarlo para cuando esté allá. Sé que va a ser de esta manera y no va a ser como el gran sueño americano, como lo pintamos algunas veces.
Jhon, escríbemelo y lo traduzco. I asking Jhon that he write down the name of the movie so I can translate it.
Oh, it's Samland. I think he was talking about Samland.
Sanland, sí.
Yeah, Samland. Imagínate, algunas veces te entiendo perfectamente y entonces otras veces estoy yo like, que está hablando de Samland. Samland, la película Samland el guión estaba escrito de Juan Pablo Reyes. Y fue la idea de Juan Pablo Reyes. It was completely his idea of the story of Samland. And when I was brought in as a producer, it was to take the project of what was already started, because he had already started filming, but he needed to finish it, and it was not completed. And it was an amazing story because he had Carlos Montilla, Luis Fernandez, and they were able to bring in something that a lot of the immigrants, I mean, my parents were immigrants, you know, they were both born in Cuba and they both came to this country for that American freedom and dream. You know, it is very difficult in certain parts of South and Central America. And there's that plight, you know, that the immigrants have of that dream of coming here for an opportunity. It's still hard here. It's not easy. A lot of people still struggle, but compared to other parts of South and Central America, there's at least the opportunity that if you work hard and if you try hard enough, that you will succeed, you know, in that American dream. And the story of Samland was actually based on certain stories that Juan Pablo had experienced from his mother, because his mother was an actual immigration investigator, you know, for like La Migra. And she worked in the visa department and in immigration. And that's where he got the inspiration of that story. And the message that I wanted to tell about Samland, it was not just about the person that provided, but also about the person that used. So it was kind of like, remember, you're not going to have a problem if you have a product, okay, and I'm talking about something serious. If you have a product, you won't be able to sell it unless there's someone that needs it. And we wanted to touch base on that, the addiction problem, and also the other side, because some people use that for a means of a better life, and that's what we wanted to show. And we wanted also to show, a family that was involved in the drug culture, but not everyone, because he wasn't. Paz was not, and he never wanted to be part of that, of that world. And that's what I really enjoyed about the movie, that it was a little bit it was complex. It was talking about a man's dream where all he wanted to do was just to get a job, work, have a better life, be married, and have a better opportunity for himself and hopefully his children. But and then he comes together with a woman who has an addiction problem, who's having problems of that end. And we wanted to mix those two sides to tell the story. And it's really a love story in itself, because it has to do the story with a woman who's trying to find her child and bring her child back, to a man who's trying to find himself and his place in the world. But Samland is definitely, a really amazing movie. And it did very well. We got it screened at the New York Latino Film Festival, which is sponsored by HBO and Warner Media. So that was amazing that we had that exhibition. It was difficult because it was during the pandemic. We finished shooting the movie during the pandemic. And we had to abide by COVID rules and regulations and all that kind of stuff, the guidelines that we had to go put through. But yeah, Samland, and hopefully Samland will be playing in South and Central America soon. We're now looking for a foreign distributor for that movie. The thing about Samland, and here's what's really interesting, a lot of Latino film festivals didn't want to take it. And my thought was because of the undertone of drugs, because it had that drug undertone in it. It had the bad guy into it. And I think that's why it was not embraced that much, because it's kind of like, oh, here we go again with the same story. That's why my next Latino movie, I just wanted a romantic comedy, nothing to do, with any type of drugs.
Producciones que la verdad están muy buenas. La que estoy como más a la expectativa son las doncellas de La Habana, que es algo monumental.
Yo también.
Gorgas de reggae, si no estoy mal, y tensions. Yo quisiera preguntarte sobre esas tres que sigue y que nos adelante un poco sobre doncellas de La Habana, porque está muy bueno.
Man. Tell us more in what we can know about really God's tension, but mostly the Maids of Havana, man. Jhon and myself, we want to know about that.
Yeah, absolutely. The Maids of Havana it's based on a book of the same name. And I acquired the rights to the book because I am Cuban, right? So it really resonated with me, the story. And the story is about the author's mother. It's based loosely on true stories. And it has to do with the maids that were left behind during the Cuban Revolution. So I purchased the actual story rights to the book. And we're right now developing the feature film. And we'll probably shoot that movie. I mean, again, whether it's possible for me to go to Cuba or not, I know the author wants me to go to Cuba to shoot the film. And the movie actually spans from, 1930s, 1940 Cuba to 1980, which is the Mariel. So we're right now still developing the story of how much we want to tell. Eventually, I like to have a series that I can then tell the entire, story. But in a feature film, which we're focused now on a feature film, more than likely we'll just do during the Cuban Revolution for the Maids of Havana. And that one, actually, I'm bringing back the team from Samland. It's going to be directed by Juan Pablo Reyes and also the other producers of the project. So I'm bringing them all back. And, we're looking at shooting probably, it's a possibility to shoot either Dominican Republic or Colombia to double as Cuba, because again, as an independent filmmaker, I'm looking for the equity and I'm looking for the tax credit to finance these projects, you know. And then going back to the story of the Maids of Havana, it's about the women, the Afro-Cuban women, and the workers that work for these, you know, aristocrats and business people that left on planes at the time, and they were left behind to deal with the change that took place during Cuba during the 60s. And it's about their story. And I'm very, very excited about that movie. And it's right now in development. Mm-hmm. We're working on the script.
To Colombia. And man, that thing that got me waiting is because a little bit about my musical background. Yeah. I grew up with my grandma, and all time, in fact, I got all these son cubano boleros, so I'm waiting for that. You know, that Sonora Matancera, Trio Matamoros. So that's the thing that got me waiting for that movie, man.
Yeah, that's hopefully that's next. I mean, the movies that I'm working on right now, I can't announce them yet. We're right now in financing. I can though say that one of the next films is called Toy House, and that's going to be a thriller, a horror movie. Right now we're developing that, and we're now negotiating our deal with the director.
And I grew up exclusiva. I was telling you from Jhon, but yeah, I was telling because that's an exclusiva.
Yeah, exclusive.
Oh man,
yeah.
Aplaudirlo. Bravo, William.
Yeah, thank you.
William.
You guys are cool.
No, man, tú eres bacano como si en Colombia.
Imagínate, lo que tengo que hacer es practicar más el español, porque imagínate, si voy a ir a Colombia a tomar una cena de película y caminando ahí con el guión, tengo que practicar más el español.
Por supuesto.
Mío,
y que te llegue Jack Guzmán, eche enojo y tú no entiendas. Eche qué.
Tengo que practicar con la dominicana. Sí, antes que regreso yo a Colombia ahí a trabajar.
Jhon, comparte la entrevista a Danilo, ¿no? Para que lo vea.
Por supuesto que sí.
Y dale, Jhon, lo que tú quieras.
Hombre, este es tu espacio para que digan no solo tus redes sociales, invita a la gente para que vean tu trabajo y saluda el canal porque nos sentimos bendecidos.
Yes, man. That is for you. Tell the social media so people can follow you. That stay attentive. There is a project that and yes, give us a hi, you in English, in Spanish, in Spanglish, to the channel, to the people that is watching this.
Okay, what is the channel's name? Because you're going to be editing this, I assume. I mean, what's the channel's name?
It's called Jhon Jatenjor Interviews, but you can say El Canal de Jhon or Jhon's channel.
El Canal de Jhon.
Yes, I like more that.
Tenemos que ver aquí un poquitico el Canal de Jhon. Vamos aquí la entrevista del cubano de Miami. Because I assume you're, putting movies in there, trailers, stuff. Because I watched your shows, and you put like things in between them. Well, you can follow me, William Garcia. It's WM Garcia for Instagram, and I'm also on Facebook and Twitter under WM Garcia Films. That's my, as they call, screen name.
William, gracias por esta oportunidad.
Thank you so much.
Es increíble y muchas bendiciones.
Muchas gracias.
Gracias.
Perdona, es que imagínate, el español es like, I'll butcher it. Imagínate, tengo que practicar mucho más. Imagínate, si voy a hacer la entrevista yo en español va a ser muy complicado porque no lo practico. Yeah. Eso es lo que pasa cuando no lo usas aquí. Yeah.
En el Festival de Cine de Cartagena, maybe you had to, they're going to ask you in Spanish or something. No. Colombia is your house, man. And
it's your house, whatever.
Because in Miami, nosotros lo llamamos Spanglish. La gente, porque cuando yo voy y hablo con mi hermano, es, por ejemplo, digo 2 o 3 palabras en español, entonces voy en inglés, y entonces voy para atrás en español, entonces en inglés, y así como gente en Miami se comunican. Pero imagínate cuando tú estás en Colombia o México o otro país en Sudamérica, te van a mirar como, ¿qué tú estás haciendo? You know, y entonces dice disparate. Y entonces el idioma es diferente en diferentes países también. Eso lo aprendí yo. Y lo aprendí yo porque yo estaba en Honduras. Y coger, a los cubanos voy a coger yo, you know, el boleto, ok, déjame coger esto, you know. Pero coger en Honduras no significa eso. Yo no sé lo que digo. Eso lo aprendí yo a lo duro. Porque estaba yo en producción y le fue una señorita, le dije, por favor, ¿me puede hacer un favor y me puede coger esa agua que está ahí? Y ella me miró como, coger, eso no se dice. Y yo digo, no, me coge la agua. Yeah. So, eso lo aprendí yo muy, muy rápido. You know, eso fue en Sudamérica, porque hay algunas palabras que son diferentes. La definición, you know, the definition is completely different.
Yes, man. Yeah. In fact, in Venezuela, you cannot say cuchara.
Cuchara.
It's another thing, man. I won't say what is cuchara. Yes, you have to say cucharita, but because cuchara is another.
Oh my God. And ese es como el bicho. El bicho es como un bicho.
Un bicho.
You know, like, you know, an ant, you know, un bicho. Eso es bicho, sí. Palabra así, imagínate que una persona, por eso yo digo, cuando estoy yo en Centroamérica, yo estoy calladito ahí, yo digo, sí, ok, no, te entiendo. You know, no hable tan rápido. Y entonces ya me hiciste otra historia. Yo estaba en España. Esto fue tan cómico. Yo estaba en España y entonces, tú sabes, cuando tú estás alrededor de todo el mundo hablando español, el idioma te viene, it just comes back, el idioma viene para atrás. Entonces empiezas a hablar en español y la mente te regresa y dice, mira, empiezas a hablar. Yo me acuerdo, fui a una señora, dije, señora, ¿me puede decir a dónde yo puedo encontrar la guagua? Y ella me mira, ¿la guagua? ¿Pero qué es eso? La guagua. Tú estás diciendo un autobús. And it goes, no, pero yo lo llamo la guagua. It's like, you know, el autobús para ellos. Y ella, delante de todo el mundo, me estaba diciendo, ¿qué es eso? Una guagua. Y yo estaba, ay, Dios mío, qué pena. Y todo el mundo mirándome, riéndose, porque yo estaba buscando por la guagua, que significa autobús.
No, yeah. It's crazy. I will tell you this about our city, Cúcuta. In Cúcuta, we said, when we want to do like a hitchhike,
hitchhike.
We say, danos la cola. No, you cannot say in that part because it sounds weird. Dame la cola. ¿Cómo así? Yo no quiero. No, no, it's crazy, man. No, yo lo que tú digas, yo.
No, man. Es un honor, man. Bienvenido bueno, siempre, no lo dudes. Para las doncellas de La Habana, vuelva nuevamente.
Sí. Come back talking about las doncellas de La Habana.
Bueno, si tú quieres, if you guys want, I can bring in all the actors and the director of Samland. Would
Jhon.
You want to do that? Y ellos todos hablan español.
Por supuesto.
Yo lo entendiste.
Yeah, si tú quieres, yo puedo hablar con Juan Pablo, Diego, Carlos Montilla y Luis Fernández. Tú me dices, like, dame tiempo para yo comunicar con Perfecto. Todos los actores. Y el director y va a ser mucho más fácil porque todos ellos hablan perfecto del español.
Perfecto.
No te van a tirarte disparate como yo, you know, el repetido de Miami. So imagínate. Puedes usar lo que quieras, ya. Pero me dice cuándo, me da un tiempo y entonces yo hablo con ellos. ¿Okay?
Esta semana cuadramos el tiempo y todo.
Arregla con el patrón. Con Jhon,
el patrón
William.
No, ya. Tú me dices, tienes el email mío y así puedes hablar con ellos. Y Luis Fernández, tú sabes que él trabajó en Dallas. Carlos Montilla era muy famoso en Venezuela. Muchas de las, ¿cómo se dice? Las novelitas.
Telenovelas.
Sí, you know, y Mimi Lazo. So tú me dices y yo hablo con ellos para ver si podemos comunicar.
Cúcuta is in the border with Venezuela, so all the people that you mentioned are legends because we grew up with telenovelas from Venezuela. It's crazy. Cúcuta is another history different from Bogotá and Cali.
Oh, yeah.
My cats are fighting, but it's okay.
No, man, así será.
Es la magia.
Bueno,
por supuesto. Gracias.
mucho gusto. Thank you so much.
No, William, gracias a ti.
God bless you,
Bye,
man.
bye.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Bye, bye, man.
Good luck. Good luck on your show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Buena suerte en nuestro show.
Thank you.
Gracias. Bye,
Gracias.
bye.
Bye, bye.
Bye.